Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Her Drive Sovereign series. This particular series is really connecting with women who I have either had the honor of meeting in full life or a real life, full life, or have been observing their magic and really just feel like they truly embody sovereignty and however they particularly define it. And today's guest is Cheyenne Sapphire, and I am so pumped to talk with her because she is a prayer performance artist, a tantrika, and what I think is one of the most fascinating things because I'm a dominatrix, I'm into tantra, but she is a tantric dominatrix. So that's a really fun little spicy thing that we can dive into. But Cheyenne,
Totally.
welcome to Her Drive. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful intro. Really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here and so looking forward to chatting with you.
Fabulous. Well, you're currently in Costa Rica, right?
Yes. In Costa Rica, up in the mountains in Chiripo, and, working online, working in person here, really soaking up the nature. It's so beautiful. Have you been here?
I have not been there,
Okay.
unfortunately,
Gotta
but it
come.
looks fabulous. Who
Yeah.
knows? Great. So, I mean, when I gave the intro, it was kind of a mouthful of three bullet points, but those three things seem to really be interwoven, and I would love to learn more about all three and how you embody them.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, essentially creativity and sensuality are two sides of the same coin, right? They are really associated a lot with our sacral chakra, Svadhisthana chakra. And so the fact that I am an artist and a tantrika and help people release shame and release trauma, whether that's ancestral trauma, past life, childhood trauma, and love themselves and connect with their eros in a sacred way. I mean, it's like intertwined, right? Because the more we express creatively, artistically, and we open our channels there, the more we can also connect to our eros. And so these ones are really interwoven also with my performance art. So I make music and I do spoken word, dance, and song. And so I kind of mix them all together. I really like mixing things together, as you can see. And with the music that I create, a lot of it comes from the visions that I have in meditation, the sober visions that I have, or from tantric experiences that I have, whether that's in the wild or in my bedroom meditating or with a lover or whatever. And so then I write about it. I write it in my journal because I always do that after my visions. And then I think, ooh, this is interesting. Why don't I create a little journey here? And then I make my art from that.
That's beautiful. And with the combination of all of this together, how do you find your own sovereignty? Because I can't imagine one just wakes up with it. I mean, some of us do, but it sounds like there was a journey that needed to be had.
Yeah, absolutely. There was definitely a journey and it was rocky, rough, and deep. Yeah, I mean, I say that. And I also grew up in a really amazing household. I mean, of course, there's very challenging things that occurred in that household and also really amazing things, really empowering lessons that I learned from my older sisters and my mother and my grandmother. A lot of the women in my family are huge pillars. And I and also it was this kind of conundrum where there was also so much disempowering information. So I kind of felt like I was in this flux the whole time of like, yes, empowered, you're strong, you're fierce. And also like, don't pursue that. You'll never be successful. Scarcity mindset. There's no money. Only those people can do that. It was this like really intense juxtaposition in my psyche that I have been unraveling essentially and peeling back the layers to really find my truth. And I mean, even like 7 years ago, I would never call myself an artist at all. Like went studied environment and sustainability in university, started a company doing waste management at festivals, and all of my friends would see me in these fabulous costumes and would be like, "Why are you picking garbage, Cheyenne? Like, why aren't you on stage?" And I go, "Oh no, that's not for me." And I always say, "No, it's not for me." And I was in toxic relationships, you know what I mean? Like that did not treat me well. Like I can't even believe some of the things that I let happen in those relationships. I'm like, oh my God, Cheyenne, like that's crazy that I had such low self-esteem, And then I had a, what we call a dark night of the soul, really intense one. Was battling depression, felt suicidal, had tons of skin problems as well, would be hospitalized all the time. And I really suffered from scoliosis as well and had crippling back pain where I couldn't walk more than 2 blocks without needing to stop and stretch, and like wouldn't go for walks in the park with my friends. Like it was a really, really rough time, and just kept feeling like I was honestly cursed. And then I didn't, and maybe I was like, honestly, like energetically on some different plane or something, because I really felt like I could never live the life that I wanted. And it was always for other people and not myself. And, and sometimes that percolates to the surface. And then I do, these tantric practices that I help coach people with, also to myself, to like release that essentially. And now it's like, I know I'm here to impact a lot of people and to help grow and transform and be in my fullest expression. But it was not always like that. Like I used to cry for hours in the bathroom and like look in the mirror and hate myself and like scream at myself, and just, yeah, it's been a journey of self-love. Like I've been through it all. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Dark Nights of the Soul are today's theme. I'm doing a few recordings today.
Yeah.
And I think some of the listenership understands what a Dark Night of the Soul
Totally.
is. And based on your description, it's kind of clear. But for those who it's still unclear for, how do you define a Dark Night of the Soul?
Yeah, I would say it's an underworld journey. So, which also can seem very vague to people who don't really get that, but it's like where everything in your life crumbles, where you feel so helpless and lost and defeated. And it's like the valley before climbing up another mountain, essentially. But when you're at the valley, you are not at all thinking that you can even imagine another mountain, and then it's impossible to stand up again. And so for me, it was like psychological, emotional, familial, love life, physical body. Like I was just like, wow, I can barely move. I hate myself. I'm not ever going to pursue what I want to do. I've just been cheated on. My family life is ruined. I'm broke. I'm living in my parents' basement in January in the cold. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, wow, this is so challenging. And of course, life is cyclical, right? So we have multiple experiences of these dark nights of the soul. And it's interesting though, I actually just went to a decolonization workshop at Envision, and by Gilles from the Mentee movement. And he was saying that he doesn't like to use the word dark and light because that creates distinction and othering. And actually that's a colonial framework. So it's interesting of like what to actually now call a dark night of the soul, because dark is also really beautiful, right? And there's so much prejudice and hatred on dark, which also connects with skin color and everything like that, that I don't want to like feed, but it's such a colloquial term. So I'm still working on what I will call it now. But yeah, does that make sense of what it is? I hope I described that.
Yes, that was amazingly descript and I think easily digested for those who didn't know what to call it before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's
Yeah,
like, oh, you're depressed. You're super sad and depressed. Okay.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The crumbling of, I think it's beyond just like your breakup. It's like
Oh
you
yeah.
said, it's a breakdown of several facets within your life and the helpless, almost the helpless or hopelessness of
Mm-hmm.
being, and like, I don't know where to go. And in those experiences that I've had, it's like, okay, I guess the only thing to do is like surrender.
And that's really it, because in these situations there's no hope. Like you, so you just have to feel it all or be numb for a while, and then you'll come to a breaking point where the terror arises, the grief permeates through your soul, the anger floods through your bones, and you're just like a mess. And that's part of it, right? And that's also part of life. That is the yin and yang of life, which is also fundamental to what I teach and practice and believe in. It's like this yin and yang, this dark and light. Like all those emotions are valid, and they're also okay and needed. Just like the dark night of the soul sometimes is needed, 100%. Seeds are in the darkness for a long time, and then they blossom, right?
Hmm. Hmm. So valid. I love that description, bringing in the seed. And I would love to kind of dive into or go back into your story a bit, where all of these things around you have basically, they're not going well. Living in your parents' basement in January.
Yeah.
And what was the progression and the storyline and kind of key moments that have occurred for you from that point up until where you are now, like doing
Yeah.
amazing dances and
Thanks.
music videos
Yeah.
and like so sexy and embodied and like, yeah, tell me all of that.
Yeah. Thank you. I know sometimes it's wild. I look back and I think, wow, like that's that's so tender, you know, like my younger self. I'm like, oh honey, come here. Which is part of that story to remind me, if I forget, of connecting with future selves and your younger selves. But essentially, so in that dark period, you know, I decided, okay, I'm gonna go in. Like everything sucks. I hate everything. Um, Saw no hope, no future. Like, you know what I mean? Like just everything was horrible. And I heard that there was a class of people doing blindfolded yoga. So then I bought some blindfolds, and then I started in my parents' basement in the winter. You know, this was not also not just like a month. Like this was like a good year and a half, you know, of feeling all of this. However, I was in my parents' basement, and then I started putting on a blindfold and just going into the darkness. Like I literally told myself, fine, if I'm going to go in, like bring it on, bitch. Like I'm going in. And so then I put on the blindfold and I would just feel, and then I started moving. And back then I wouldn't call myself a dancer. I did not post dance videos on Instagram. I had so much self-esteem. Like because a man who I had broken up with, his ex before me was a world famous dancer, like living her dream, making a shit ton of money, going on tour. It was like so confronting for me. And so wouldn't, like, I just didn't do any art, wasn't singing, wasn't doing poetry. And so I started moving with the blindfold. And then that's actually what taught me about void magic, like in priestess work, and going into the surrender. And it also really helped me with channeling. I move Kundalini now. I can help people have Kundalini awakenings in a safe way and connect to their Kundalini. And I move it through my body as well. And this, because you're devoid of your main sense that we use and you awaken your dormant senses, I started to feel a lot more. My hearing became more acute. You know, my third eye was developing more. I started smelling things more, tasting. Like I was really present, right? And so then I just started doing this. And sometimes I'd put on a blindfold thinking 20 minutes had gone by, and it would be like an hour and a half. And then I'd think, wow, like I'm really going into trance here. So I was doing that for a long time myself. And then one day I was teaching yoga. I finally felt like whole enough to teach yoga again, because I had done a yoga teacher training. So I was teaching yoga, and then I was filming a blindfolded yoga like asana that I was going to promote. And then there was this thunderstorm that was occurring in the middle of August now. And I remember just, you know, putting on the camera, and then I actually started dancing and channeling for the first time. Like sound started coming out of me. It was so powerful. And I had, before that, it had just been like subtle movements, like breathing, you know, like listening and yoga, nothing like crazy. And then the thunderstorm, like literally the lightning was going off, the thunder was cracking, and I just started channeling so much. And I just felt, wow, there is something here. And then I took off the blindfold, still have the video, and was just amazed by it. And I thought, okay, like going into the darkness and listening and connecting with all the things that are present with the elements and everything enabled me to move so much energy through my being. And I felt so empowered and strong. That was a key moment. And then I started teaching those workshops. And another moment, I think it was also with the blindfold, and I was bawling, like crying so much. And I went to the deepest fear, like what would happen if I became, I don't know, like homeless, starving, everyone hated me, ostracized from my group, my family. Like what if I was just left on the sidewalk, like, I don't know, like completely dying. And I was crying so much. And then I felt that even if that happens, I will still be my biggest cheerleader. And literally from that point on, I have never cried the same like that. Like I have never gone to a point that's so like where I don't ever, like, that's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like those thoughts of like, oh, I'll perish completely, like, which I used to feel a lot. And from that moment on, that has never happened the same. Because I'm like, I'll figure it out. Like I can do it. I'll climb back up. I'll do what I got to do. So those are key moments. And then another one was I was teaching a class and someone was in that class and I had been calling in Tantra and I had done a workshop in Tantra and I don't really like seek things. A lot of the time things come to me, I really attract. And so I'll put out an intention, but it's not even like I'm like manifesting. It just, this is that's how I roll. But I like put out the intention, like I want Tantra and I want it to come to me. And then someone was in my class and she was really energetically tuned. And I asked her, do you study Tantra? And she said, yes, I'm moving into this house and it's like a house of tantrikas. And I said, can I move in? And it was that quick, like 15 seconds. And she looked at me and said, yep. And then we moved in together and we started activating each other a lot. And we lived there for 5 years and we grew a lot together and we've taken space and we've gotten back to, like we've activated a lot. We opened our channels a lot together. And then I started doing trainings and reading books and going full in. Yeah.
Magical. I love the progression of
Yeah.
everyone's story. Beautiful. For those who don't know what Tantra is, can you provide, and it's hard to define, but how do you define it?
Yeah, totally. So Tantra in Sanskrit means weave and weft. And so I like to imagine like a visualization kind of that of you're bringing in all the different parts of yourself. So I do a lot of work with archetypes, with releasing shame, with connecting with your shadow elements. This occurs in my surrender sessions where I am embodying the archetype of the dominatrix and I'm helping people release shame with their fantasies, with my performance when I'm channeling different, archetypes or animals and getting into different aspects of the feminine or the masculine. And so it's like bringing all of these parts to the surface and in wholeness. And you can kind of imagine this weaving and wefting like fabric, like strings in a fabric of a carpet. So you have all these different colors that create this beautiful tapestry, but it is all these parts of yourself. Now, another visualization that I personally like to give, like that one is kind of more well known, but my personal also visualization is imagining, in a thunderstorm and there's the protons and electrons, so these opposites, and they're feeling that attraction towards one another. And so these energies, you can play with these polarities in your body and your energetic field or with another person or multiple people, whether it's masculine and feminine polarities, hot and cold, fast, slow, whatever it is. And when they connect, it's boom, illumination, lightning occurs. And so this illumination is this awareness, this godly connection, and it's very pleasurable. It's very orgasmic in nature. It has nothing to do with sex. It's just like you're playing with these opposites, feeling the friction, feeling all these different opposing parts of yourself, and then boom, bring them into connection. And it's like so magical, so delicious.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. A lot of people do equate Tantra to sex.
Yeah.
So I think that's like the Western definition, right?
Totally. Mm-hmm.
And I guess you had mentioned Kundalini as well. I feel like there's also this idea that's a little bit misunderstood as far as like what Kundalini energy is, what a Kundalini awakening is, and you had mentioned how you help people do it safely. So I would love to kind of dive back into, I guess it's kind of two questions there.
Mm-hmm.
Like what is the sexual and then what are the non-sexual components of Tantra? And then if we could dive into Kundalini and what a Kundalini awakening, what a Kundalini awakening is, and why it needs to be done safely. So I know I'm throwing a lot at you.
Right. Okay. So let's start with the first one. Okay. Which is like Tantra, what's sexual, what's not. Okay. So as I just shared with that, analogy of lightning and the electrons and protons, opposites colliding, and then there's illumination, which can be pleasurable, right? Like it's like, boom, we see light. So a lot of work with Tantra, I mean, it can be sexual in terms of like orgasmic, and it's like energetic orgasms that people can have, or just bliss states, and bliss, the most bliss we feel, like laughter when we're falling in love, newborn baby, orgasms, right? Like those are kind of like the highest bliss states. I don't know, just to plug that off the top of my head. I'm sure there's others, but that we can experience, right? And so a lot of Tantra can be like orgasmic, but it's not sexual. So like a lot of the things that I do with my clients, and of course this is I've done different trainings in Tantra, and this is also my own intuitive healing as well, that I bring into this. So I would guess I'd call it like neo tantra and also Cheyenne's vibe. But it's like I do a lot of work with inner child work, with emotional release, cathartic practices to allow rage to come through, to allow grief to come through, energetic attunement, like just really listening to your body's needs, embodiment practices. Then there's also things like tantric breast massage, tantric self pleasure tips, things like mirror rituals, affirmations in the mirror, self touch in the mirror, dancing in the mirror, simply sitting in silence and holding yourself in the mirror, or like self pleasure in the mirror. There's like tons of different exercises that you can do, and then also work with the microcosmic orbit, with moving your Kundalini energy through different parts in your body, meditations, breath work. Like the list really varies. And of course, there's different lineages. There's Kriya Yoga Tantra, there's Taoist Tantra, there's all kinds of Tantra, you know what I mean? And then also like sacred sexuality and everyone's interpretations of things and versions of it. So yes, that's that. I can keep going on and on. And then, okay, your next question was, please remind me.
Yeah, so Kundalini, just
Yeah.
describing what that is, what an
Mhm.
awakening is, and why there's need for safe awakenings rather than, or what happens when it's not safe.
Yeah. So Kundalini is our life force energy, and everyone has this energy. And for most people, it lies coiled at the base of your spine. And when it rises, it essentially activates your chakra. So it like opens them up, and then it rises up to your crown chakra, and then it like bursts through that. And when you have like a full blown Kundalini awakening, and it activates what's called the cosmic egg, which like is associated with your aura and helps you essentially like completely change your consciousness and shift in your healing powers and capabilities, and activating your genius and capacity to love and forgive and to heal. um so most people, though they work with Kundalini, they might not have a full blown Kundalini where it stays risen at the top of your crown. Mine has not stayed risen at the top of my crown, though I did have a Kundalini awakening. I'm not like enlightened. You know what I mean? And so what it feels, so this life force energy. So because we all like, life force is creative energy, right? Like that is God energy of creation. We look into nature, and it is growing all the time. There's creative energy flowing through every plant and the bees and the flowers, et cetera, et cetera. So this life force energy is sexual by nature, because sexual energy is creative. And we're not talking like pornographic or sexy, but just like, when we're having sex, the possibility of creating a whole human is possible, of creation, right? So this energy can be, again, very orgasmic or pleasurable or blissful. And so when you have a Kundalini awakening, it can vary. Different people have different experiences, of course. And for myself, I knew it was a Kundalini awakening because I was in a Tantra training 3 months before, and I had witnessed someone have one. And then the teacher had said, "This is a Kundalini awakening, everyone." So essentially for myself, it felt like electricity just like jolted up through my root to my crown, and my whole body started shaking profusely, like I was having a seizure almost, and like vibrating and just like convulsing. And it was like a full body electrical orgasm for like 45 minutes. And I was just like moaning and like in bliss, and then crying, and then like screaming. And it was just insane. It was in the desert. And in that experience, I had two thoughts. The rest, like, I was just in pure like bliss. And then I'd have like two moments where I was like, oh my God, like kind of coming in back to this consciousness. And one was, this is what every prophet was talking about. And I truly felt like, oh my God, I get it. Like, I get it. I get the universe. I get what every prophet was preaching about. Like one love, consciousness, like we're all God. It's all possible. This is just, the material realm is all fake. And then I also thought later, if someone sees me, they're going to put me in an insane asylum, which is crazy because this was the most connected to God I've ever felt, the most pure and true that I felt, which kind of is a reflection on society. But yeah, but yeah, so that's Kundalini. So how it can be dangerous because, and also I wasn't seeking to have a Kundalini awakening. I wasn't like out here trying to have one to gain something. It just happened. And it can essentially, like, especially if you have it where it's like full blown and then it stays risen, you know, you kind of like, I mean, you start to hear things, you start to become clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, and that can be very ungrounding for a lot of people. So if you're not doing grounding practices, or you're just like totally blasted off, and then, you know, you're like, you're just like wandering around being like, oh, all is God. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen those people, you know, on Times Square, and we're like, oh, honey, shit, that sucks. You know what I mean? Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe they're totally blissed out and we're the ones that suck. I don't know the answers. But it's like we got to be grounded, and that's also a part of like, so Kundalini, like Shakti Kundalini, is the feminine energy, like this wild chaos feminine energy, like, or yin energy, we can say, because feminine, there's all different types of variations of that. And then we need Shiva energy of like witness consciousness, the clear pillar of just observation. We know this from meditation, from Buddhist practices. So if you're like fully in the Shakti and just like, yes, orgasmic bliss, all great, it's like you got to have balance back to that yin and yang. So it's important to, like, after those states of bliss or during it as well, like observation, come to stillness, ground that energy, do embodiment practices to stay in your body, because ultimately we are here on the 3D. We are not in the astral, like 24/7. We're here on Earth for a reason.
Hmm. I think that's very well said. On so many levels. One, I've seen a lot of people out there where I'm like, oh, I wonder if they had a Kundalini awakening and they're too blasted out. And your mention of if someone sees me, they might admit me to an asylum is a genuine concern. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah,
in my own journeys, I've told my mom a few times because I've shared with her a lot of my experiences. Like, hey, I don't want you to think that I'm losing it. I'm actually finding more and more of myself.
right,
Please do not, like, please do not admit me somewhere. I'm not crazy.
right.
Um,
And what does she say to that?
right? But you never know. but, but, but with all of this being said, and witnessing other women and their experiences, it seems like when women are starting to come more into their sovereignty, to bring it to that topic, there seems to be a progression of expression. And
Yes.
I'm curious if you have seen different like levels to how women who are, we'll say, closed to
Mhm.
then rising, and what that might look like.
Love this question and love this point. I'm like, ooh, absolutely, 100%. I've noticed that in the clients that I work with, and also in myself, you know, and that's the beauty of this creative sexual life force energy. So it's okay. So if we think about it, when we have sex, right, and we have all of that potential to create a human, like, let's breathe that in. That is a lot of fucking potential there. So then when you bring this energy up into your body and you start circulating this throughout your body instead of expelling it, so you can do different practices, you know, that like bring this energy to different areas, or with sex magic, with manifestation, with intention, with love, with bring it to your heart, or areas in your body that might need a little bit of extra life force, activation, healing energy. All of that potential to create a human is going back into you. So then that is expanding your expression. That's expanding your capability to hold more, to do more, to channel more. So yeah, I absolutely see that in my clients so much. It's amazing. And I've seen it in myself as well. And also because, you know, really when you start working with Kundalini and Tantra, I'll speak for myself and for a lot of clients that I've worked with, you know, it's like you have a deeper faith, a deeper trust in life. And that's also been I mean, it's a big one. Like, that's a huge one. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that the waves don't come, that the dips don't come, of course, and the questioning always comes. And like, we should always be, you know, critical and think and reflect on different things. But I have experienced more trust since doing this work, and since my continuing awakening.
I think that's so beautiful, and to understand that the dark and the light are both so magical and beautiful. And the way I look at it is like the butterfly and the moth. You
Nice.
know, I used to have this deep fear of moths, and it's a whole story of why I no longer fear or have an issue with moths. But there was a point where I'm like, why am I so freaked out by these winged creatures of the night? And then I started researching them. And I realized they're super pollinators, more so than butterflies, and how
Wow.
vital they are to our ecosystem and how varied they are. And realized, oh my God, these are night butterflies, or butterflies are like day moths. Equal
Yeah.
importance, so, so magical. And that's why I really love like kink
Mhm.
and BDSM, specifically, and like now having done dominatrix training and playing with power dynamics in a more knowledgeable, conscious, sacred way,
Yeah.
has allowed me to focus more on this other side that society rejects. Even me, at certain points, have been like, why do I like this so much?
Absolutely.
But
I've been there.
like I've always been kinky, but when I started to play with BDSM, I thought it was just for fun. And then I found a deeper connection with it. I'd already been doing sex magic on my own. But then unexpectedly, that the power dynamic play allowed for deeper expansion into my essence. And I'm really curious to hear how you got into this space and what it's been like for you.
Yeah, I love all the points you made there, from the moth and the butterfly to your love for kink. And I too have had a very interesting journey with kink. I don't know who hasn't, to be honest. It's like, it's such a journey, you know what I mean? And yeah, I had a lot of shame about it before. It took me years to get into it. And like now it's getting quite popular, but like 4 years ago it wasn't. And that's when I got into it. And I mean, even 10 years ago, it definitely wasn't. But you know, with kink, it's so beautiful because it's not about releasing or transmuting or purging or doing something to biohack yourself to be this better, more worthy version of yourself. It's just going into it. And that's what is exactly so healing. And that's what I love about it. It's just like, oh, you have this really weird thing that 99% of all people would be like, you're disgusting, get the fuck out of my life for. Awesome. Very cool. Let's play into that. Of course,
Mhm.
consensually, if I want to, if they want to, all the things. But it's so great. Like, it's so much fun and it's so liberating. And exploring kink has taught me so much about actually like the more soft, gentle feminine as well, of like receiving and just like loving myself, loving the parts that I have shamed. It's helped me with my expression, with not giving a fuck what other people think, because I mean, I already have created like art that definitely provokes a lot of people, but then stuff definitely like coming more into kink and being more vocal and public about myself as a dominatrix has come with challenges. Absolutely. There are definitely moments I post things and I get shit tons of unfollows. Like in the last 6 months since I've started posting about it on my normal page, normal, huh? Um, I've had like hundreds of unfollows, you know?
Mhm.
It's who I am. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's who I am. And so, and at the same time, I've had tons of people like really love it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just a journey and of like deep self love, honestly. And I struggled at first with like, oh my God, there's not going to be any men who like love me because of this. And I went through a breakup in the early fall, and then some guy who like just really wasn't into it. I went through another like deep destruction, like, oh my God, I'm all the things. I'm gonna be single. I'm being a witch is bad. I'm bad. And then I like went to California and I was just like, wait, I'm great. Like this, like I literally like taught a tantric BDSM workshop with my friend in like a mansion in Malibu. And I was like, wait, this is amazing. Like, and it was so powerful doing a transmission where I domed her in front of other women, and like she's also very energetically tuned with her Kundalini. So like Kundalini was like roaring and rippling through her, and I wasn't even touching her. It was just like through subtle things. And the women who were receiving this beautiful witnessing of someone surrendering so completely, and a woman in her power was like orgasmic for them. It was such a powerful
Mhm.
transmission. And I thought, yeah, that's what I'm here to do. Like, absolutely. I'm totally fine with this. And since then, I've had like hella men be interested in me and be like, and they know all about me and what I do. And I'm like, great. And like, that's the standard. It's like, I'm not going to dim myself to please another person, because that's actually a disservice to them, because they're not getting the fullness of myself. And I came to this earth to be the fullness of myself.
Oh, wow. Amen to all of that. It's so true. And the thought that being a witch is bad,
Mhm.
that is like deeply rooted in us for
Yep.
a very long time. And I am grateful that there's like this awakening, witch awakening that's occurring.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to see and be like, oh, okay, I see you. I see you.
Mhm.
Okay, everyone's popping up.
Yeah.
And for there to be that freedom now. However, I still believe that there are great barriers to women. I'll say women, but people, say
Mhm.
people,
Mhm.
for being fully embodied in their witchiness, in their
Yeah.
sovereignty, because there's still fear.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it as far as like the dominatrix thing. There's a lot of, I would say, society barriers and like how they perceive what that work is and what that can be, whether it's work or just a lifestyle thing that somebody
Mhm.
does. And then
Mhm.
I see social media platforms silencing people as well, and that's really radically, in my opinion, not cool. And it's eliminating freedom of expression. And if you, my belief that these platforms are meant to be the town, like the town square where people can come and be expressive and you can find your people and
Yeah.
you can witness what other people believe, because if not, everything has to go underground and you go back into this like shame state.
I know.
So the question of all of that I have is leading to the question is, knowing these things, how do you work to maintain your sovereignty in the fullness that you are?
Mm. Right. Great question. So, I teach this as well, and in my I actually have a free class that people can go to called Expression and Pleasure through my link tree, and I talk about these pillars that I continually go back to check myself and to see, okay, is this actually how I want to express, and or is this actually my truth? And so one of those is honesty. So I tune in with myself and I go, is this really what I want, or am I getting influenced from other people? From my lover, from my boyfriend, from my parents, from my family, society, culture, religion, whatever. So now to get to that point, because some people might be asking, well, how am I supposed to know? It's so challenging, Cheyenne. And I go, yeah, come do my programs and you'll get to understand how you can listen to your body and like do the releasing to really tune into your inner oracle. So yeah, I check in with myself, the honesty. And sometimes I'll have to do practices to like release, tune in. Like I do the work that I teach, you know what I mean? And then I go, okay, now from this clear state, can I make this decision? So there's that. Then I connect with my inner child. Is my inner child like this? Is she having fun? Yes, no, not really. Dangerous. Oh, yes, loves it. Giddy. She's giddy. Okay, she's good. Well, I'm good. That one. And then I think on my deathbed, am I really going to care what Karen wrote on my wall? No. I can maybe she'll pop up. I don't know. I'm not on my deathbed, but like pretty sure I'm not. Pretty sure I'll be thinking, did I love enough? And was I true to myself? Did I forgive those people? Did I say I'm sorry? You know what I mean? Those are my hypotheses. And so I think about that. Like, is this what I want to do? Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. And then I do it. With Instagram or, platforms that silence people, that's a little trickier. Even yesterday I posted something. I was going to post more photos from this series. And then I was like, ooh, like this one, I mean, it's not even like I never post nude things. Like I would never, like I wouldn't even like if I could. I wouldn't post, like I'd be tactful. Like there's children on this platform, you know what I mean? Like, and though I thought, I was like, I'm scared that like Instagram will take me down if there's like two women who are in lingerie, like that's more suggestive than one or whatever, even though there's no like explicit sexual acts being done because I don't even do that even in my sessions. But I like asked a friend, what do you think about this one? She's like, I don't know. And I have a good network of close friends who also uplift me and support me and, remind me when I'm feeling low or scared that like that all is well. They love and support me. And then I go, okay. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think it's kind of, I want to know there's children on the platforms, and that
Mm-hmm.
goes without saying. But I think there's a certain level of, we can't write the word sex. You can't
Right.
write like BDSM, or like certain words are
Yeah.
flagged.
Yeah.
And I just think like, what is this other matrix that's being created and that is in a way like essential to be a part of in order to survive in the third dimension in a
I
way.
know.
It's so weird that we're creating
It's so weird.
another matrix. What is happening?
I totally am with you. I literally was having a conversation with a friend the other day saying, I just really like, I don't want Instagram to be like my main thing forever. Like, I need some other avenues that people can find me because it sucks. I have had an account, my dominatrix account, taken down on Instagram, and babe, it was so chill. Like compared to other people who like post themselves in bikinis with like milk on their asses, and I'm like, that is crude. My shit's elegant, and like I got taken down. But I think also because it's like a woman empowered. It's also a woman of color empowered. And I think there is a part of that as well.
I think that's so fair. And I've seen so many like just downright, not just suggestive, but extremely like in the face where there's in my opinion no value other than, you know,
Male gaze.
yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
exactly.
And there's a woman who's going to be on this series as well. Her name's Julieta, and she predominantly teaches people shibari. And she's very tasteful, and just her tying herself up gets flagged all the time. And I just think, to your point, this is an empowered person. How does the algorithm know that one person is empowered and the other one is not?
I know. I know. It's really twisted, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when it's like people in the more women in the submissive or like escort vibe, like not that escorts are, but just like titties out, look at my jugs, boys. It's like totally fine. But when it's like I'm empowered, men at my feet, it's like absolutely not. It's just
It still exists. So
yeah.
so it's a tricky thing to be a sovereign human.
Yeah,
Even
it
at age.
is. Even though it's so amazing and empowering, yeah, it's also tricky. Or like people getting triggered by it too. Like not even like people who are conservative or whatever, but like I don't like other women being triggered by it. Actually, I'm writing a whole new post on this that I'll be posting soon about receivership and how people get hella triggered by it because they misery loves company, and they don't want to see it, and they're like, I don't
Mm,
like this that this is happening. It's like the crab in the bucket thing.
yeah. Yeah. I've always thought whenever I've witnessed something that triggers me, I always ask myself why.
Right.
What is
Amazing.
happening inside of me that I don't why don't I like this? And even in like a dom training that I did, I was witnessing some things that I really my core was rejecting. Like I don't like that at all. Why am I judging? Critical, like what is here? And later
Hmm.
on I found my answers for myself. And of course it
Right.
had everything to do with where I was at and not being understanding of another person's reality and why that might be
Yes.
something that they receive and truly enjoy. And that's why I think like knowledge, and the more that we acquire information and knowledge coupled with compassion, the world is so much more beautiful. And then you can come into that all is one. But there's a lot of people that are just a hard stop on so many
Yeah.
things. And
Exactly.
because they're hard stopping themselves, right?
I know. And I
Mm-hmm.
also get it when you do have triggers or trauma that like can be really jolting for people. Again, this kink is like it's also no joke. Like it is dealing with shadows and shadows of humanity. Power play is I mean, like the whole world we're talking about power structures. Even with Instagram, we're being censored. We're without like consent. It's just like no, we're being taken down from platforms. Like power is runs the fucking world. You know what I mean? Like, and so when then you're playing with it in consensual ways, but like exploring these shadows that only until recently are becoming even more talked about on podcasts, on Instagram, whatever. It's like billions of people though are like repress this. This is not okay. So like it can be a lot for people. And that's also where I bring in the tantric elements of it, the healing aspects of it, the coaching aspects, where in these sessions, I'm coaching people to release, to learn how they can surrender to life, to when there's pain involved, to feel into the pain that they are experiencing in their life that they haven't let go of, or that they're experiencing this breakup, and then to feel it manifest in the physical so that it can be released through cathartic practices to let go,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the difference that I do in my domination work or in my surrender sessions.
I think that's beautiful. And I've noticed that you're doing like, are they fantasy surrender sessions? That's
Yeah.
really fun because I love costumes, love role play.
I
Like
know, right?
I should have been an actress. Like this is so fun, right? And you get to be a whole different person.
So much fun.
So
I love it.
like how you came up with that concept and like how you make that work because it just seems like some places you have to be in certain landscapes.
Yeah, I mean, you can, yeah, totally, and I mean that's even more fun. Like, let's fly to a cool place and live out this fantasy. With fantasy role play, I really love it because you get to explore a part of your psyche that is there, but maybe it's not your reality. So, like for example, I just posted something where I'm dressed up as a milkmaid on the farm. I do not. I am not a milkmaid. I do not live on a farm. Never have. Never will on that kind of farm. Maybe like in Costa Rica. Maybe, who knows? It'll become like Amish or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything I say with a grain of salt, and it's subject to change. Yeah, but it's like fun, and I like this archetype for myself personally because she is the opposite of who I am. And so it's fun to explore these parts of ourselves that we won't just based on our upbringing. For example, like a stereotypical like this milkmaid that I embodied in this photo shoot, or in role play that I do. It's like, she's uneducated, she hasn't left the village, or she hasn't gone on beyond the hill. She bakes all the time, and it's the same recipe that's been given down generation by generation. She's illiterate. You know what I mean? All of those things I will never be. I am literate. I am very well traveled. I'm very educated. I have traveled the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't bake a lot. I do sometimes, but it's like, I don't have a recipe passed down generations. For all those reasons, like that just will never be me in this lifetime. So
Mm-hmm.
it's fun and exciting and erotic for me to be something that I'm not, because it's also that element of like mystery, that we love. It's like, even like when we're connecting with a new lover, like that spiciness, that wonder of like what's going to happen next, that like the erotic of the unknown, right? Which is also like a kink, even in the dark night of the soul. Like, you can work it for yourself, being like, ooh, yeah, I don't know what's coming next, I'm going into the void. Like, that's sexy, man. Like, it really is. You can play with that energy and like ride it and move it through your being. So then with exploring these archetypes, it's like, ooh, yeah, like I want to be this like mermaid of the river, and like just be like I did another thing where I had like a whip, and I was imagining like everyone who crossed the river had to like say the password, or I'd hit them with a whip. That's not gonna happen. Like, I don't live in the river. I need to breathe. I don't want to get moldy feet. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not ever gonna be a river goddess in this lifetime, but I can play it out, and it's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
fun, and it
Yep.
connects to my inner child
Mm-hmm.
beaming and giddy. And it's like I get to feel liberated as well, because I'm not like I get to feel full. I get to experience life and be like, wow, I just explored that like random fantasy I had because I read that one fantasy book when I was 7 years old, and like it always kind of stuck with me, and then now I just acted it out, and it was also sexy and fun. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's literally the best.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I'm like, role play is the best form of adult play.
Yeah, I love that.
It's just
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, it's just so great. Well, I
Yeah.
love chatting with you, and I would love to ask you if you could go back in time and give a younger you some words of wisdom. What would you say, and how old would you be?
What could I be? Aw. I mean, honestly, probably like 7 years old, like quite young. And I would tell myself that I am an amazing artist, and that I can do anything that I want to be, and that life is going to support me in doing that.
Mm,
Those words I never heard as a kid. Though I was immersed in so much spirituality and art, it was still like, don't become an artist. You're never going to be successful. Like, get a real job, all those things. So I would really encourage myself to just like do whatever she wants, like full
mm,
heartedly, and that she'll be supported. Life wants her to be in her full expression.
mm. And that isn't that sovereignty.
Totally. Yes, I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, love, is there anything else that you would like to share before we say farewell?
Hmm. I'd just really love to emphasize that, for those who are listening and are feeling fear about like being ostracized or judged if you're expressing in the way that you want to, like you the more you're in your truth and you're vibrating at your frequency that you want to operate at, people will either vibrate along with you, like they'll expand and grow with you, or they'll vibrate onwards, but you will attract, by the law of attraction, people who resonate with you. And then you're in true relationship with others because there's nothing to hide. And like
Mm.
it can be really magical. Life just starts to get super juicy and magical when you start to do that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
full agreement.
Thanks. Mm.
Beautiful. And where can everyone find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Cheyenne Sapphire Official. And you can also find me on my website, www.cheyennesapphire.com. I'm on YouTube as well. You can see my music videos up there. Same thing, Cheyenne Sapphire all around. And yeah, I'll be doing a class soon on tantric BDSM, and there are different online courses you can sign up for. I do in-person performances, private retreats, private coaching. Like, send me a message. And it's been really great chatting with you. Thank you so much. It's been really fun.
Oh,
Thank you.
you're so welcome. It's always fun to like satiate a curiosity and uh, just see the depth that the women that come on the show have, and
Amazing.
you're 100% a part of the club.
Thank you so much. And awesome that you're doing this work too. It's really, really beautiful. I look forward to listening to the other podcasts as well.
Thanks. Thank you for witnessing this episode of Her Drive Sovereign, and I invite you to celebrate with us on summer solstice for a retreat for women by women. To learn more, visit her-drive.com/events, and cheers to sovereignty. Love you, ladies.